Hey, hello, what's up, and welcome into this week's episode of Geek Garage. This is episode number 50, 50. We're old officially. We're
Yeah.
going to be discussing all things Batman. I am Ted, even though I sound like shit this week, or shittier this week, I guess, if you're going to be a mean person about it. Joined as always by David. Hello, David.
Hello, Ted. I am so sorry you're sick. But according to you, this is the best that you have sounded in the last 2 weeks. Um,
Probably, yeah. I
yeah,
have,
I mean,
at this point, I think I have the fucking coronavirus. I don't know.
well, let's certainly hope not. I would like to very much chalk it up to weather. And the changing of the seasons here in Middle Tennessee because that tends to do it to a motherfucker. It is unfortunate, but I would very much like it to be that the case instead of this beer virus that has been going around and capping mofo's. So
I don't think that viruses actually cat people, but I also am not a doctor, so I can't
okay,
speak with any
well, I
certainty.
mean, agree to disagree, I suppose.
Sure. Anyway, as I said, we are here to discuss all things Batman. Apparently, that is David's very clever episode title. We're going to work on that before this gets published. Um, there's a lot of Batman news basically always in, geek and nerddom, especially now here recently with filming of the Matt Reeves Batman movie slated for 2021. That has started, filming for that has started, so there have been some photos from the set, which we'll get into. Uh, I finally convinced David to actually read some Batman comics, and he has some thoughts on those. So we'll talk about those. And then, of course, there was that Joker movie last year, which I don't ever want to talk about again. But there's always stuff going on in the Batman universe in geekdom. So we're going to do an episode about it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. I'm excited. I like Batman.
Before we get started talking about all wonderful things Batman, we do have a few quick things to go over. First, we have the Patreon. David, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so there's really nothing new to report as far as the Patreon goes. If, especially if you've been listening to our last several episodes where we have been talking about our Patreon, like I said previously, we got our first donor, so that's pretty dope. They're starting to come in. Um, but yeah, if you're into the idea of giving strangers or near strangers money so they can pursue their discipline or hobby or side gig, we are receptive to that. And in return, we will give you excessive
Nothing.
mediocre
We'll give you
content.
nothing and you'll like it.
No, you get this cool button and sticker, and then there's other cool perks like helping us decide on new logos for shirts and other apparel. You'll get to choose a topic for or a movie for one of our Ghost of the Movies episodes that we do for a watch along, and just other cool stuff. So if you want to check out all the perks and you're interested, go look us up on Patreon. Just type in Geek Garage Podcast and you'll find us, no problem. Um,
Yeah, I've heard other people that have Patreons say things like it's less than the price of a cup of coffee per month. I think if you join our lowest tier, it's like $25 a year.
yeah,
Which
that
I
is.
don't think I would give me $25 a year, but if you want to give us $25 a year, I can guarantee you that we will not spend it on foolish things like, hold on, okay, no, let me stop myself. We'll spend it on foolish things, but we won't buy drugs with it. I can promise that.
Yeah, I mean,
David might buy drugs. I won't buy drugs with it. I can promise that.
no drugs will be purchased, both either legal or illegal. I have an FSA that covers my medication. But yeah, we made an active decision to take our Patreon earnings and put them basically towards just put them back into the podcast, whether we're upgrading our hardware or it's funding, trips to conventions and stuff like that. Because
Yeah,
that,
because
of course,
cons
it's
be
not free.
fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone out there listening that has ever been to a convention, either as an attendee or setting up a booth in the artist alley or exhibitor hall, it is not cheap.
Yeah.
And the more popular the convention, um,
The less cheap it
the
is.
yeah, that is correct.
There's a direct
Which
relationship there.
Right, and that's actually a good segue to the next thing I was going to bring up, which is our upcoming events. We're going to be at EvilCon in actually
Like
about
2 weeks.
yeah, 2 weeks, pretty soon. EvilCon is in Evansville, Indiana. So if you are traveling or if you live in or near Evansville, you can check us out. We'll be there all weekend. We'll have our booth set up. I believe it'll be like right outside the artist alley. It'll be where all
Didn't
the
quite make the
tables.
cut.
Well, I mean, we're accurately placed for who we are. We're with other people that are like promoting a brand instead of like selling stuff, which is accurate. And like I said, we're accurately placed within the convention. Um, we'll also be at MTAC. We won't be doing a whole lot of like marketing and stuff. We'll probably be passing out buttons, but for the most part, we'll probably just do the guerrilla marketing thing again, like we did last year. And then we have MomoCon coming up in May,
Just a
which
couple of
is
months. Yeah.
yeah, it's the 21st through 24th. So if you live in or near Atlanta and plan on going, that's going to be a good time. Ted nor I have ever been, but we've heard it's a
I've been to
pretty
Atlanta before.
right.
This convention.
um, yeah, it's we've heard it gets pretty lit, as the kids say, lit
I don't. I
AF.
don't think they say that anymore. Actually,
No? Okay. Well, I mean, leave it to me to not know what the kids say. I think that's all right though. Um and yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than we made an announcement. I think it was maybe our previous episode where Ted and I were together. We talked about doing an evil villains month here coming up soon. I think we're aiming that for April. Isn't that right, Ted?
yeah, sure. I have no idea.
We've basically we just started throwing around ideas for what to cover. I think we're gonna try and do some movie villains, some TV villains, and of course comic books.
The
And
correct answer is
but
Dark Side, always, forever.
yeah, I read a little bit about Darkseid today while doing some Batman
He
research.
is the
So
goat.
yeah. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. And like we said previously when we brought this up, if you have any evil villains that you would like us to discuss, um, please send us a shout on social media or email or whatever your poison is as far as reaching out to people and getting their attention. Just hit us up and we'll do our best to include it in the episode. So with that, I guess we're ready to get this biatch started. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. So when I first started talking to you about Batman, and you were like, "I'm listening," because apparently Batman is one of your favorites. You kind of gave me the skinny on the best places to start. Because at the same time, I kind of approached you about Batman comics is right when I was like first starting to get into comic books, and you said that there was a couple good places to start, but then I like promptly ignored what where you told me to the
As one
book to start.
does.
Right. And it wasn't to spite you. I just forgot because I'm a dumb idiot brain, a garbage bastard man, as we once said. We need to bring that back,
We
by
do
the
need to
way.
bring that back.
Yeah. But yeah, Batman Year One. That's the book that you recommended. I have not had a chance to read it yet. Uh, but I figured I'd kind of intro this and let you take the reins and talk about it a little bit.
So year one, Batman year one, it's I think a lot of people consider it sort of like the definitive origin of the I guess the more modern take on the Batman character.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously with a character that's been around since like the 40s, there have been a lot of different I guess twists or, thematic changes to the origin of Batman. But like I said, in terms of the modern era, so to speak, I think this is kind of the one that a lot of people point to. It's a Frank Miller book, and Frank Miller is not for everybody. He has his issues, comics aside, but I like it a lot. I think it's a really interesting story, and I think one of the reasons it's really interesting and that it hits so hard and works so well is that it's really not even a Batman story. It takes a lot of focus and puts it on Jim Gordon. So not only is it sort of like the first year of Batman, it's also sort of the first year of Jim Gordon getting to Gotham. So he's not the commissioner yet. He's still just, a cop.
Mm, okay.
And so it sort of builds their dynamic and shows like Gordon coming in and trying to fight the corruption within the city, particularly within the police department, like from the inside. And then it shows Batman coming in as Batman, and being the extrajudicial vigilante and kind of playing by his own rules because he understands that criminals play by their own rules. And as we find out, the city itself and the institutions that are supposed to protect that city kind of play by their own rules as well.
All right.
And it's one of the stories, Nolan took a lot from it for Batman Begins. Not everything, Batman Begins and Year One are still very drastically different in a lot of ways. There's some more of the classic origin influence on Batman Begins, but some of the look, particularly, I think, of Gotham in Batman Begins is heavily influenced by Year One. Again, that's just my opinion, but they filmed in Chicago for Batman Begins, and not some of the nicer parts of the city, I guess. So, and to me, that was always kind of what Gotham exists, sort of on like two levels in my mind. There's like that very heavy Art Deco style from like the Burton films, and then particularly like Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
And then there's that like dingy, disgusting, why would anybody live here? This is like the projects, but it's the whole city is just gross. Uh,
Right.
of like the a lot of the scenes out of Begins or out of Year One.
Yeah.
So unless you want to go super old school and read a lot of like the collections from the 40s and watch a lot of the old serials from the 40s, Year One is kind of the starting point that I point people to when they're like, hey, I really like Batman. I've seen all the movies and this and that. I really want to get into the comic books. I'm like, check out Year One because I think it's more accessible, because like I said, it's a lot
Right.
newer. So
Yeah.
it's a little easier to get into than, something from the 40s that has a lot of like 40s style lingo, and it's a very 40s style comic, which is going to be very far removed from your average person of
Right.
today.
Yeah. And Year One came out in like the 80s, right? Like 87 or 89, something like that, like late 80s.
Yeah, so it originally ran from February to May of 1987.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah.
32, 33 years old.
Right.
Um, you know,
Which I mean still makes it a little old, but definitely not as old as like the actual origin of Batman.
right. And like I said, Detective Comics goes back into the like the 30s.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So, it's a lot more accessible just for the fact that it's only 30 years old as opposed to 80 years old.
Right. Well, you want to jump into another highly regarded Batman run that I actually have read.
Uh my personal favorite, well, no, well, maybe. I'd have to really think about this. One of my personal favorite Batman books is The Long Halloween.
Yeah, that's the
By
one that I've read.
Yeah, by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale.
Yep.
This is kind of, I guess, kind of the pseudo sequel, you might say, to Year One.
Okay.
Um, so it almost is like a direct continuation of it. I don't know that it's considered like canonically that, but I do know that it's basically like quote unquote Year Two.
Okay.
Um, this is the best of the Loeb and Sale collaborations, at least with regards to Batman. It is 13 issues. All 13 issues are fucking amazing. The
Mm-hmm.
overarching story of it is great. I love this book. Everything about it. The art style, that super stylized look to every character.
Right.
It's just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I so the like I said, this was the very first Batman comic book that I read, and um, having nothing to base it off of, I I don't know. It was just very interesting to kind of to have this be my first one, and in that way I'm kind of thankful for it because like we'll get into Batman Hush here in just a little bit because that's the one I'm currently reading, but this is like it's very much seems like a product of its time, like the like you said with the style of the artwork. It feels much different, less like super glossy and flashy and just bulging muscles everywhere that we kind of get with the modern day comics. I feel like this is I feel like the artistic style is suited more for the storyline, I guess, so, which of course we know is like very well, like would you say like mafia based?
Yeah. So Tim Sale is like uh, pretty much known for this book in particular, like for kind of like a dark and moody art style.
Yeah.
Um, and it definitely comes across in this. Like, it's this book is goth as fuck. Like,
Yeah, it is a bit bleak.
yeah,
Very
it's
good, but
yeah,
bleak.
yeah. The thing I like about it the most is like it seems like an almost natural Well, definitely of year one. It seems like a natural continuation of that, but also of Gotham as it relates to crime.
Yeah.
So you go in this book, you in year one, and in a lot of the early Batman stories, he's taking on like the mob.
Hmm.
Maroni and Falcone and those families, and they're just like mob goons. And then this is where you see sort of those guys take a back seat, and the more, I guess, traditional is not really the right word, but I guess the more popular rogues gallery of
Yeah.
Batman villains comes in. So like Joker and Two Face and Scarecrow and all of them, like the quote unquote super villains.
Yeah. Right.
So like I said, it just kind of makes logical sense in a way, I guess, going from one extreme to the other in a way. So spoiler warning. Um, if you have not read The Long Halloween, I definitely recommend it. You can probably pick it up new in most places. It's a very popular book. You can probably pick it up new at like your local bookstore,
Yeah.
online. But support your local comic shop if you can, if you
Yeah.
have one. Um, and you could probably even find it used at your local comic shop for like $5. I've seen this book. It's been in print basically continuously since it debuted, so should be pretty easy to track down and check out.
Yeah.
Um, that said, we are going to go into some spoilers here. So if you have not read it, read it and then come back. Otherwise, or until then, fast forward until you hear us talking about the next book.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely do that. So everyone dies in this one,
Yeah,
huh? No. No. I mean, actually, like that's kind of true. Like everyone does die.
yeah.
I mean,
There's a lot of dying in this book.
yeah. There's like what like at least one death in each issue. So it seems like there's at least 13 deaths.
Yeah, so the whole like the overarching plot line is of the holiday killer, the
Right.
so-called holiday killer, which um, is believed to be. There's a case to be made for like three different people, and
Yeah.
I personally think that it's two of those people.
Okay.
Like I said, it's been a while since I've read it. I can't remember if it actually explicitly says this, but I think the book pretty well lines up with what I think with what my takeaway is.
Hmm.
But I'm interested to hear what yours was.
Yeah. So when when it basically closed out towards the very end or at the very end with I forget Harvey Dent's wife's name. Um,
Gilda.
Gil, yeah, there you go. She's like, I think throwing his stuff in like a furnace or something and like burning it.
Yeah.
Um, she her internal monologue. Uh, from what I gathered, she she was either I think she it seemed like to me she killed at least one person, and then Falcone or um, yeah,
Yeah,
Falcone's
Alberto.
son.
Yeah, Alberto.
Yeah, Alberto. He was responsible for like one murder. But I think he initially wanted to take credit for more, maybe, or there was some confliction there, and then Harvey Dent, I believe, was responsible for basically the rest. So,
Yeah. So her monologue, as I recall, is you see her as she's throwing things into the furnace. She has a pistol and a disguise. That's the same disguise the Holiday Killer had.
mhm,
And she's throwing them in. And her monologue is that she's saying she took it upon herself to start them so that Harvey didn't have to work so much because he was constantly
right,
working, doing different things with the police and as a district attorney because of the mob's control over the
right,
city. Her thinking was, oh, if I can help with some of this, then Harvey won't have to work so much. We'll be able to spend more time together. Because as I recall, don't they want to start a family? Are they talking about targeting?
yes,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I recall.
that
They
that
wanted to start a family.
right,
Um, and then she thinks, after Falcone has stood trial and confessed, she thinks, I think he was lying. I don't think he did all of them.
mhm.
Um, she thinks that Harvey took over on like New Year's Eve, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds right. That was like
Um,
his first kill.
it's never really explicitly said that he did, and I don't think he did. So I think that it was Gilda and Alberto.
Okay, so you don't think Harvey Dent was responsible for any of the murders?
Well, not until he becomes Two Face, anyway. And this
Oh,
is the
okay,
book we should have covered earlier. This is, it starts out and Harvey Dent is the district attorney, and then this is another
right,
sort of origin story, if you will, of Two Face.
sure,
Although it doesn't really change anything from what you're familiar with in terms of his transition into Two Face.
right.
This is another book that Nolan cribbed heavily from,
Yeah,
which
for sure.
is not a bad thing. Like I said, this is one of my favorite Batman books ever, really.
Right. And
Um,
if you pick up the edition, I'm looking to see when my edition was published because I really enjoyed. It has a really cool introduction with Nolan and David S. Goyer. Looks like it was. I don't know. It's got like a blue and orange cover on it with Batman. I'll see if I can drop it in the notes
it's probably the
after.
only version you can buy new anymore, I would guess.
Yeah, that's probably it. Because this is like they had to order it for me at the comic book shop.
Yeah, that's probably
So
like the
that's
10-year anniversary edition or something because
yeah,
The Dark Knight came out about 10 years after this did, 10 or 11 years. So
yeah.
it's probably
It's got a
10 years.
copyright of 96 and 97.
Yeah,
Um,
so Dark Knight came
so
out in 2008. So
But yeah, it does have a really cool intro with Chris Nolan and David S. Goyer, and they talk about exactly what you said, the all the influences that he took to kind of structure the Dark Knight trilogy.
I mean, some of them weren't even like influences. They're just like he lifted directly from this book.
Right.
Like the line that Gilda says, "I believe in Harvey Dent." I mean, that
Hmm.
was literally Dent's campaign slogan in Dark Knight.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and it was kind of repeated with some of the other characters taking that mantle
Hmm.
up. He gets revenge for his disfigurement by flipping the coin. Of course, the coin flip is a staple of Two Face, it's sort of his signature thing. But that aspect of it, taken straight into the Dark Knight, where he's going after all the cops and the mob guys that he blames for Rachel's death. As
Right.
an aside, Rachel Dawes is like terrible. I hate that character so much.
It is Rachel like just a movie
That's completely
character.
a Nolan creation.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was about to say, like, when I picked this up and um, Rachel was obviously not a part of the Long Halloween. I was like, I wonder if that's a Nolan thing. So that's interesting to know. I suppose.
yeah.
I guess
No,
it
no
just fit.
disrespect to Katie Holmes or Maggie Gyllenhaal, who I think both of them are talented and
Mhm.
and great. I hate that character so much. I hate Rachel Dawes so much. There are just so many other good characters they could have used and put in that role, and they were like,
Right.
let's make one up because Batman needs a weird love interest from when he was a kid. No, that's dumb. That's stupid, and I hate you for it. Anyway, back to the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a great book. I really can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
It's been Nolan took from it. A lot of other Batman properties have taken from it. There's nods to it in different things like the Arkham Asylum games.
Uh huh.
There's nods to it. You can some of those costumes from the Long Halloween are unlockable. It also has some of my favorite character designs. I know you and I talked about this as you were reading it. Like some of the character designs in this book are just like so different and crazy and
Oh
awesome.
yeah. Oh yeah, the Joker is like fucking incredible in this book. Like just like his pronounced facial features, which, that's typically the way the Joker is drawn or illustrated or animated, depending on the medium. But in this, it he has such a very unique look to him that's like, oh, that's the fucking Joker from the Long Halloween. And even though he's not like a main villain, like there's uh, you know the Joker and all the other villains, they kind of have their own particular issue, like
Yeah,
within
like
this
each
volume.
each issue is basically a month of story in the
Right.
comic, and each one of the main villains, I guess, for Batman, and a lot of them make appearances in this.
Hmm.
They sort of, like David said, get like one issue
Right.
that's focused on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Joker might get a couple, but for the most part, like the Scarecrow, he only shows up in like one issue. The I think the Penguin, he shows up in one. We get
Mad
Poison
Hatter.
Ivy. Yeah. Um, and so it's definitely a good book to pick up and read, and get into if you're interested in getting getting a glimpse of like a bunch of different Batman villains in just one run. So that was kind of something I appreciated.
Yeah, and as I recall, isn't this the book that has the really awesome double splash page that's like all the rogues gallery sitting around the desk?
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
that's
it.
a
Yeah.
fucking dope ass one.
Oh, oh yeah, I was like, whew, like
You done
that's
fucked up, AA Ron.
yeah. Man, and that Poison Ivy, she does things to my brain. I can now see why they um constructed her character arc as they do, as being able to have influence on both men and women, because she well, yeah, before it gets hot and heavy,
Okay.
let's move on.
Learned a lot about David that I did not know or need to know. We're
What,
going
that
to
I
go
want to
ahead
fuck
and
plants?
eject quickly and move along to our next book, which is Hush.
Yeah, Hush. uh which is, the like I said, the one that I'm currently reading. Did you say that you've read this book? Or
I read part of it. I don't think I ever finished it because I've never owned it.
Mhm.
It got Hush is like super divisive.
Yeah.
Yeah, among a lot of Batman fans. So there are people that really, 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 really like it, and there are people that really, really, really hate it.
Yeah, I can
Um,
see that.
I I thought it was good from what I read of it. I did not finish it. I know the story, so I know what happens, and then I did watch
Mhm.
the animated movie that they made of it a
Right.
couple of years ago. This is another Jeff Loeb book, same guy who wrote
Right.
The Long Halloween. And
Mhm.
if you're a comics fan, you've heard of Jeff Loeb, and I think he's involved in the MCU in some pretty heavy capacity as well. So
Okay.
he's pretty well known, like I said, by comic fans. Very smart, very creative guy. But his lows are really, really fucking low. As an
Yeah,
aside,
right. No, I'm definitely going to be in the first camp of people reading this book. So, like you, I have not finished it yet. I, however, own it. I was actually reading it right up until, like, we set up to record, because I just desperately wanted to finish it. I just unfortunately haven't gotten there yet. I'm about three-quarters of the way through. So probably won't do too many spoilers with Hush, but I fucking love this book. Like, the artistic style is kind of, it's definitely a little bit more contemporary, and I really like that. Like I've said before, I appreciate all different artistic styles when it comes to comic books, because they have their own merits. I love them all, but this one in particular, like, it's awesome. Like, you get to, in this book, you really get to see like Batman, like, be Batman and like beat the shit out of bad guys, but still like refrain from killing them. Um, and the story so far has been really good. Like, just you know I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain why I like it. But Ted, with you saying how it's very divisive or polarizing, I can definitely see that because if you're someone that has been reading Batman for a really long time, and if you started out with like the older books or like the stuff like the Long Halloween in year one, and that's kind of what you're used to, and then all of a sudden you start reading this, I can see someone in that position not really liking something like Hush, but someone like me who's kind of willing to give everything a shot, and also I'm not well versed in too many Batman runs. I was, of course, willing to give this one a shot too, and like I said, I fucking love it so far. It's a lot of fun. The relationship between Batman and Catwoman in this is amazing. This is actually a love interest that actually works. I'm not sure how many other iterations of Batman there are out there where Batman and Catwoman are love interests, or there's some
Lots,
chemistry there. Lots, yeah.
lots. Yeah,
Yeah, I figured as much. And I don't know how of those how many they end up like getting closer, uh, or it's just kind of like a fun, like no pun intended, like cat and mouse, like love attraction kind of thing. But with this, it's I'd say like if you're kind of a nerd when it comes to comic books, but you also like a little bit of romance, I think this would be a good one for you. It's got that. So yeah. Like I said, I didn't want to. I don't have any or too many spoilers to get into with this since I haven't finished it yet. But
yeah. And since you haven't spoiled, or excuse me, since you haven't finished it, I won't spoil it. I will say that Jim Lee's art remains the shit. Jim Lee is
yeah,
a fucking amazing artist. Like basically, if you're good enough to be a comic book artist, you're amazing, like straight up.
right.
But Jim
Yeah.
Lee to me is like he's one of my favorite comic artists. Like if I see Jim Lee's name as the artist on a book, I'm probably gonna be into it just because
Oh,
his
right
artwork
on.
is so fucking good.
What else has he done? Does he typically do DC stuff?
He has done a ton of stuff,
Oh yeah.
like a ton of stuff. He is a DC guy now, but that's not where he started. So like he came into the industry in the late '80s, I maybe the early '90s, and he did a
Okay.
lot of stuff for like X-Men.
Oh, okay.
And he was on that really amazing fucking Claremont run of X-Men that a lot of people point to as like the top of the mountain for X-Men.
Mm,
And then basically all the character designs in Batman, or I'm sorry, in X-Men the animated series were from Jim Lee. They basically just aped his style from the Claremont run.
gotcha.
He was one of the guys that went over to Image
Okay.
that McFarlane started, and he did some books with them. And then he came back to DC and did a lot of stuff with them. I think he still works for DC as like chief creative officer or something like
All right.
pretty high up. Like I don't know that he actually is a um like I don't know that he still does like art in books or whatever,
Sure.
but he is a fantastic artist, in my opinion.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I'll definitely keep a lookout for his name attached to certain books because, like I said, I fucking love the art style in this, and definitely excited to finish this up. I've only had it in my possession for like months now, so it's nice to finally like actually
No rush.
have to get to read it and actually finish it. So um is so like I said, I haven't been able to dive into too many runs of Batman. These are pretty much the main two that I had to discuss. Are and there's of course a million more out there. Ted, is there any others that you'd like to talk about or like throw out there as like, hey, check this
So
out?
so many.
Yeah,
Um, like I said, and pretty much like everybody who knows who Batman is knows, he's been a character since for fucking ever, basically.
right.
So there have been so many runs that people have had with him, that artists and writers have had with him, or that different like directors have had with him, and we'll get into the movies in a second. But um, Some of the more popular books that are also really good, and again, these are just my opinions. I think they're probably shared by a lot of other people, but these are just my opinions. So, if you want to get mad and tweet at somebody, uh, you're wasting your time because I don't care. But the first one that I want to talk about is Arkham Asylum: A Serious House on Serious Earth by Grant Morrison. Um, Man, this book is fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah, just by the title alone, what like when you told me that, I was like, Jesus, this sounds like a fucking kick to the nuts and brain at the same time.
it is yeah. um so without going into spoilers, I will not go into spoilers on any of these, at least not intentionally, because I know you haven't read them, and I don't know, if any of our listeners have.
Sure.
But this one is, like I said, it's written by Grant Morrison. The art is by Dave McKean. One of the first things you'll notice about this is that it probably doesn't look like any other comic book you've ever seen,
Right.
in terms of art style. So it's not just hand drawn or digitally drawn like a lot of books now, especially are. It's sort of like mixed media. So a lot of it's based on your traditional art style for comics, but then has had stuff like added to it or changed,
Sure.
and it looks fucking fantastic. Um, I think this is the first book that Morrison wrote before he became like the guy, and had that amazing run on Batman, which is one of the best ones of all time. But essentially, the plot of this is that there's a riot going on at Arkham. Batman goes in and is trying to find out what's going on. A lot of the quote unquote rogues gallery is involved in this,
Hmm.
and they're a little different probably than you're used to, but it's it's a heavy ass book, man.
Dude, like I just did a Google image search for this book, and this shit is like straight up what nightmares are fucking
It's not,
made out
yeah,
of.
yeah, it's
Well,
basically nightmare fuel.
like one of the first things that pops up is the Joker's face, and I'm like, well, so much for fucking sleeping at night.
Yeah, it's
Jesus Christ, I'm like, I can't stop looking at it. Like,
it's definitely sort of like a psychological thriller.
oh
It's
yeah,
not a happy book. Right? It's really it's one of my favorites, maybe for that reason. Like I said, it's a very different book, than like normally when you read a comic book, particularly a superhero comic book, you're like, there's good guys and bad guys, and the good guys beat up the bad guys. And
hmm
this book is just like, nope, we're gonna go deep down the rabbit hole of like, surrealism and like, you know, psychology and psychoanalysis and all this other crazy shit.
right,
Um,
which makes sense for, I mean, the physical setting, right?
sure, sure. And it's just like it's really good. Again, this is probably available at any comic book shop on the planet, most bookstores on the planet. But like I said, I will definitely say that it is a not for the faint of heart, I guess.
A heavy read.
Yeah, when compared to other, especially other quote unquote typical Batman stories. Although I
Sure.
will say for Batman, a lot of his stories are heavier than like particularly like Superman. You
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for
There's some
sure.
corny Batman shit too. Don't get me wrong. Some of it's good and some of it's bad, but um, for me personally, I like the heavier, Batman stories. The more, I guess, fully formed, if you will. I don't know. Yeah, I'm weird. The
Yeah.
second book I want to cover is not necessarily a Batman book. In fact, he does not actually have a lot of parts in it, although it is from the Batman mythos, and that is the Joker. From 2008 by Brian Azzarello and illustrated by Lee Bermeo. Probably pronounced that incorrectly. This is not part of regular Batman continuity, so it's sort of like a standalone alternate universe type thing. It's
Okay.
kind of a sequel to the Dark Knight film, at least in some ways. So the Joker design in this book is taken directly from that, where the lips and the smile are scars rather than just makeup.
Sure.
Although the Joker has been changed so that he doesn't look like Heath Ledger.
Hmm.
That was kind of the big change, but still that same sort of like look and style is definitely here. Um, like I said, Batman only sort of makes one or two appearances in this. It's told from the point of a low level Joker henchman,
Okay.
and then he's sort of it's driving Miss Daisy for the Joker in some ways, basically. It's really
Interesting.
good. It's pretty quick. Like I said, it's just like it's like a one shot basically. So it's not a very long story. Um, and it's really good and it's really fucking bleak. And there's a part in here that makes me very uncomfortable that I won't spoil again, but
You're making me want to read like all these
yeah,
right now.
because they're good. You should want to read them. um,
No, my
but
bank account is gonna like cry here in the next couple of days.
yeah, girl, same. But definitely check it out once you're able. Next up, another great one is Batman: The Man Who Laughs by Ed Brubaker and Doug Mankey. I don't know how to say anybody's name.
You're
This
doing
is
great.
also sort of a successor to Year One. It's called The Man Who Laughs, which is based on a movie, which was based on a novel called The Man Who Laughs, which is sort of the inspiration for the Joker. This is also a one shot, and it's sort of like again a side universe, so it's not like main Batman continuity. But Joker is going to poison Gotham's water supply. Whoa, scary! And it's just a great book, so definitely check it out. I don't have as much to say about it, but it's really easy to go into spoilers with that one, so I'll avoid them.
Right on.
Of course, there's the Killing Joke, another Joker story. Unfortunately, these are all really Joker heavy. Some of the best books are based on the Joker, even though he's not my favorite villain. My favorite villain of Batman's is the Riddler. But
All right.
definitely here nor there. The Killing Joke is very famous because of some really terrible shit that happens to Barbara Gordon. Um, I can't really get into that without spoiling it, but I will say that it set the tone and changed sort of like the Batman family, the Bat family, from that
Mhm.
point forward.
Right.
That's by Alan Moore, and I want to say Brian Bolland did the art on it,
Okay.
and it's good, even if it is kind of like uncomfortable, like I said, in a lot of ways.
Sure.
We have The Dark Knight Returns, which is another Frank Miller book. I believe he wrote this before Year One, but I could be wrong about that. This is a different take on Batman, where Batman is now an old man who comes back. It's in the future. It's very cyberpunk, very dystopic, very dystopian. Very, very good. Very good. It's got one of my all-time favorite Batman parts, or all-time favorite parts in any Batman story, where he like takes out this thug, and this guy busts in, and he's like, this cop busts in. He's like, "You just killed that man," and Batman's like, "I didn't kill him." Or no, you just crippled that man. He's like, "I didn't cripple him. He's young. He'll walk again, but you'll stay scared, won't you?" I was like, "Fuck."
Jesus, Batman
Yeah,
ain't fucking
that,
around.
that's hard as shit. It's one of my all-time favorite Batman moments.
Almost as good as the. It's okay, guys. He just wanted his machete back.
Yes, it occupies a very similar place in my heart as that Jason line.
Right. Fucking classic.
Yeah. Um, Nightfall, which is the famous storyline that um, introduced the character of Bane. And of course, Bane did go on to break Batman's back. Spoiler alert, although basically everybody knows that. That's almost a meme at this point, and it was part of the
Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns. Um, this story is way better than the Dark Knight Returns. Way better. I can't even tell you how much better it is. It also has probably what is my favorite iteration of the Batmobile, which is a souped up, pimped out Maserati. So
All right.
there's nothing bad about that. And then there's Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader, which is a little different. It's a book by Neil Gaiman. Again, it's really hard to talk about without getting into spoilers. But Neil Gaiman is basically perfect. He can do no wrong. So check that out as well.
Right. Yeah.
But don't just take my word for it. If you're into Batman, check out anything that looks cool to you. Um, More people should get into comic books, in my
For
opinion,
sure. Yeah.
because they're always better than the movies.
Yes, I and that's coming from you, and I'll pretty much echo that because, and that's saying something because I enjoy the comic book movies, but it's just, I mean, there's so many things that just cannot and will not translate from book to movie, thus making the books. so much. You can do so much more with the books, as far as the illustration and the dialogue, just everything regarding the books. Like you can do so much more with it. And since I started actively reading about a year or two ago, I don't know. I've never looked back. Like I just I love just Batman in general, of course, and then just comic books. It's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, and even though I did basically just shit on all comic book movies by saying the books are always better, let's talk about the Batman movies now.
Yeah, that's an excellent segue.
Yeah. Um, Man, some of them are good and some of them are really not good.
Yeah. Well, let's. So, who was the one? Was it Joel Schumacher that put nipples on the suit?
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting about that movie is,
Nothing.
well, no, there's nothing good about it. There are interesting things about it.
Okay. Yeah. Good point.
It's basically like, particularly Batman and Robin with George Clooney, where George Clooney's like, yeah, I was playing him as a gay guy. Like he was like, I played Bruce Wayne as a gay man, and nobody else
I buy
knew that. Nobody else
that.
knew that. That was just George Clooney being like, I'm going to do this and it will be great. And it didn't, it wasn't. It didn't turn out
Right.
that way. I'm sorry, George. But if you, I'm not gonna say they're underrated. I'm not gonna say they're actually good because they're terrible. And if anybody tells you they're not, they are lying to you. But what I will say is that they make a lot of sense for what Warner Brothers wanted to do at that time. That's
Right.
all I'll say.
Yeah. And plus, we got a Seal song out of it.
Yes, a great Seal song. Well, I mean, it's okay. So let me give some context to what I said because I just kind of dropped that out there without any background. So the Tim Burton films, the first one, Batman, was a fucking phenomenon.
Hmm.
A lot of people, well, I guess a lot of like modern, younger comic fans don't know that because they were either too young or not born yet. That movie was a fucking phenomenon.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "What are you gonna do for the sequel?" And he's like, "I'm gonna make like a weird BDSM porno with Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer, and Danny DeVito is gonna be a fish person." And the studio was like, "You're gonna fucking what now?" I remember vividly when this movie came out. Like, I knew people that would like not let their kids watch it. Like, I remember this vividly. My
Oh
next door
yeah.
neighbor's mom was like, "Absolutely not."
Right. Which what was the title of the
Batman
his?
Returns.
Okay, yeah, it was super fucking weird.
Yeah. How that movie wasn't rated X, I'll never know. It's
The got the NC-17
yeah,
rating.
it's not a bad movie at all. Like
Mhm.
it's good. It's not my preferred iteration of Batman, and it's definitely not like my preferred Batman film. But it's not bad. It's just it's weird as fuck.
Mhm.
But it's got some great stuff, and I love that design of Gotham, like I said, and the bat suit, and just like a lot of the character designs. Even though um, I may not have the most PG thoughts about the cat suit in that film.
Well, I mean, like that's kind of what's cool and interesting about the movies is like mirroring the comic books. Like there's kind of something out there for everyone. So if you want something a little bit more action packed, there's certain movies for that, or trilogy for that. There's if you're looking for something that's like on the silly side, like if you're into that, then there's um the Batman Forever with like the Riddler and as Jim Carrey, and isn't that the one with like Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy?
Yeah, Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, Tommy Lee Jones as Two
Two
Face,
Face. Yeah.
and Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Which you look at on paper, you're like, that seems good. How they fucked it up, I don't know.
It is it I mean, it's like a fucking circus. Like it is so
I'm
ridiculous.
fairly certain that movie actually has a circus in it.
Oh yeah, like it's I think the Honest Trailer guys on YouTube like did one for this movie, and they pointed out one of the most uh, like duh moments that we were all kind of thinking but just couldn't materialize, and it was like I think Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey just trying to like out comedy each other for
Yeah.
like the entire fucking movie.
A really funny thing about that is that Jim Carrey tells a story about filming that, and he's like, it's like the first or second day of filming, and he's like, I really want to meet Tommy Lee Jones because at this point Tommy Lee Jones has like won the Oscar.
Right.
He's a famous actor. He's well respected, and this and that. And Jim Carrey's like, I really want to meet him. So he goes up and he introduces himself, and Tommy Lee Jones is just like pissed, just like visibly angry, like shaking and like muttering, like you know. And Jim Carrey's like, "Oh my god, what have I done? I just met him." And Tommy Lee Jones looks at him. He's just like, "I cannot support your buffoonery," and storms off.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ!
it's so fucking, and it's just
Why?
like, what an old man thing to say. It's just so great.
Like, then why the fuck did he like sign on to do the movie? I mean, did he
Money,
like just get high and mighty off
money,
of? All right, yeah,
money.
I guess.
I just think it's funny that Tommy Lee Jones fucking hates Jim Carrey. I don't know what about that amuses me so much. It's just fucking hysterical to me.
Yeah, to each his own, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but it's they're bad. They're bad movies. I
Mhm.
do agree with what you said though, how there's kind of something for everybody as far as the
Right.
movies go. So there's like the super, super comics inspired um Tim Burton's Batman from 1989.
Yeah.
While he does change some stuff, I think he stays true really to the spirit of a lot of the Batman mythos. Although Batman does kill people in that, I will not be told otherwise.
Mhm.
Um, then he kind of went like, I don't know. I think Batman Returns was like his depression film. I don't know what happened there. So they took it away from him, gave it to Schumacher, and they were like, please make something that we can sell to children and doesn't have like mothers coming up to us like, the fuck was this? um, that's where they start getting bad. But like I said, they it makes sense why Schumacher did what he did. It was the '90s, and they wanted it to be more kid friendly.
It was a goofy time for cinema.
Yeah, God, that's the fucking
That
truth.
that was like when Dumb and Dumber came out and like all those weird New Line Cinema movies like Mortal Kombat and just all kinds of weird shit where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? But like you're a kid and you think it's the norm, so you're like, all right, we're just gonna go with it. And like all the while your parents are like, all this is fucking garbage.
And I hate you for making me watch it.
Right. You're like, you made me pay $3 to take you to go see this movie because back then that's how much the movies were.
Yeah. It's another funny story. So Schumacher actually had plans for another Batman film.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he wrote another Batman film that he thought he was going to get to do, and
Nope.
Batman and Robin was such a fucking disaster that they were like it killed Batman movies for like 10 years. Um the script for that fourth movie leaked several years ago, probably 8 or 10 years ago. I made it about 5 pages in and was like, I hate the movies now. It's not just Batman movies. Like I hate cinema.
Wow.
It is
That bad.
so fuck. Literally, there's one piece of dialogue where he and Batman and Alfred are talking, and he's like, "Alfred, we're going to hack the internet." That's the exact line. We're going to hack the internet. And Alfred looks
Uh,
at him and it's just like, sir, that's never been done. And rather than say something rational like, that's not possible, which is why it's never been done, Batman's just like, we'll find a way. And it's just like, man, I want to shoot myself in the fucking head right now.
yeah. Yeah. That's rough.
It's
I'm
terrible.
gonna avoid that
Yeah.
script at all costs.
I'm pretty sure that it got taken down, mostly because they didn't want mass suicides after everybody read it.
Sure. That's
Um,
that is understandable.
Yeah, and then of
God,
course they bring in Nolan, and Nolan is kind of like every white frat dude's favorite director,
sure.
um, and he's talented for sure. But like,
There's good things and bad things about the trilogy.
yeah, I hate the Batmobile, and the Tumblr is terrible, and everybody loves it. And I hate it so much because it's
I
not.
I mean, it's a cool car,
Yes,
but
but it's not a cool Batmobile.
I'll agree that I prefer the Batmobile from like the Tim Burton era. Like that was a fucking cool Batmobile. But this, I mean, it was like it makes economic sense, I suppose, and logistical sense. Like if you need to run over fuckers, then this is a good Batmobile to have. It's kind of neat how it inside it hides um, a motorcycle. I forget what the motorcycle is called.
The Bat Pod.
What is that? What it was?
Yeah, the Bat Pod.
Okay. So that was kind of cool. I definitely dug that more than the tumbler, because the wheels spun in different directions. That's kind of cool. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It was just I think the good parts of those movies were really, really good, and the bad parts were like, why is this the thing that's happening?
yeah. Some of the writing choices in the script were kind of weird. Like there's just there would be a line that came out of nowhere, and you're just like, why the fuck did anyone think that was a good idea to
Have
put
you
that
ever
in
heard
there?
people talk? Like ever?
Right, like, and why did no one stop them from putting this in there?
Right.
And like one particular instance I can think of is when they're like arresting Falcone's men, and like they're shoving one of them into a car, into the back of a squad car, and they're like, "Have a nice trip, see you next fall." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like who's like that's something you say in like third grade because like your parents are like, "Haha, son, you've never heard that one. How about a nice trip? See you next fall." And then you go to school the next day and you tell little Jimmy that you trip him in the hallway. You're like, "Hey, fucker." Like that's not something you say to like some master criminal. You just put him in a I don't know. Anyways,
Then
um,
again, there are some good lines where he's just like, I don't know where the drugs are going. I swear to God. And he's like, swear to me.
right,
That's hard.
yeah, I am one of the few in the minority that isn't really bothered um by Christian Bale's choice to do the Batman voice like that. Like it everyone just kind of came out of the woodwork after these movies came out that they're like, "Oh my god, the fucking Batman voice is so stupid. Like, why would you make the choice to do that?" Like, I didn't. It didn't really bother me for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, there's some parts where it's better than others, but I think it makes sense that Batman would change his voice from his normal
right.
Bruce Wayne voice. And if
Yeah.
you go back and like, if you watch like the animated series, which to me is the definitive portrayal of like Batman outside of the comics,
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy changes his voice from when he's reading Bruce Wayne lines and when
Mm,
he's reading Batman lines.
sure.
So it makes sense that it would change. I do think there were some parts where Bale got a little over enthusiastic, let's say.
Sure.
But I do think overall, it like from a logical standpoint, I got it. It didn't
Yeah.
fully work, but like I understood what he was going for.
Right. Did you like the Killing Joke, the animated movie that came out a few years ago?
I liked the book better.
Okay.
I think the
I
movie, um, to spoil it without really spoiling it, I think the movie added too many things that it didn't need to add to pad the length.
okay. I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I totally forgot that it was like. I mean, it makes sense that it's kind of based off a book, but I guess I didn't really consider it being based off of a comic book of the same name because I had gotten so used to the like Marvel movies not really closely following one specific iteration of its corresponding book. Like, it kind of cherry picks certain things from a character's, different iterations. So I guess in with that in mind, I didn't really consider the fact that it was based off of one book. So with what you said, I'm definitely interested in getting my hands on that one and reading that to see how it stacks up against the movie.
Yeah, it's better. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Right on. No, that's cool. I mean, and all hail Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
fucking
great,
terrific voice actor.
great run he had.
Yeah. Um, Well, is there anything else we want to touch on the movies before we move on to the Batman?
I think that we should give a little bit of a like maybe two lines discussion to the Snyderverse,
Okay,
and Ben Affleck, Batfleck. I
sure.
kind of like Ben Affleck's portrayal, to be honest. I'll be, you know,
Holy shit! Like, really? Because I liked it too. Like,
full
I mean,
transparency. When they announced him, I was like done. I was just like, nope, nope, nope. I'm out.
I think everyone said that.
And then I went and saw Batman vs Superman, and I was like, wow, this movie has a lot of problems, but Ben Affleck was actually really good.
Yeah,
Um, and then I kind of stopped caring about superhero movies, so I didn't see anything after that. And I
sure,
think what killed it was the fact that they're all just kind of terrible and the same. But he was actually all right, and I really kind of wish that I understand why he stepped away, you know, and I hate that that happened to his family, and you know that he had to go through that. But I kind of wish Snyder had gotten a chance to finish what he started,
sure,
because I for two reasons. One of which is you know very fair. Like he's trying to create art as he sees it, and I think that's a you know a good thing. The second is that I hate fucking Joss Whedon so much, so much. Like I can't even put into words how much I fucking hate Joss Whedon, um, deep and viscerally. Uh, and the fact that he took Justice League and like basically made it like Avengers 2.0. I was like, fuck you, fuck your face, fuck everything about you a second time.
yeah, yeah. It was pretty clear watching Justice League that the look and feel compared to the actual lines were vastly different. They were trying, like you said, they were trying to make some sort of Avengers movie with the dialogue, but they were kind of stuck with the look and cinematic feel that they had built up to that point with Batman versus Superman and
And you
Man of
know,
Steel.
say what you want about Snyder, but he has a you know he took something and made it his own,
Mhm.
whereas Whedon has been doing the same thing for fucking 25 years. I'm
Uh,
serious. Everything he's ever done, it has the same jokes, it has the same quips, it has the same look. And if you look at how, like, just the character of Wonder Woman, if you look at how she was filmed in both the Batman versus Superman scene she was in, as well as in her own movie,
mhm.
particularly in her own movie, she's treated like a fully formed person. And then
Right,
you look at how she's filmed in Whedon's version of Justice League, and it's just like, oh, this camera angle just happens to be behind her where half of her ass is directly in focus. Like, come on, dude.
right.
You know, come on. That's not fucking
Yeah.
slick.
No, I was very excited when they announced that Patty Jenkins was coming back to direct the second Wonder Woman because pretty much out of the DCEU, Wonder Woman has been the best out of the worsts. And like I said, I was glad that she signed on to do the second one. I'm excited for that. Whenever think that comes out soon.
Yeah, it
Um,
comes out this summer, I think.
yeah, but yeah, definitely pumped about that. I know that's not Batman, but definitely in the DC universe. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, that was more than two lines. I don't know if we'll edit that out or not. I'll leave that up to David. But moving on to Matt Reeves, the Batman that comes out in 2021, just started filming a couple weeks or a month ago, I think.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty soon, or pretty close to
Pretty
this
recently.
recording.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I am kind of stoked for this so far. I think.
yeah,
Like,
I am too. I'm very
um,
excited.
you know, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. I will say the only thing about it that I have not liked so far is the um, I guess the leak of the bat suit, not the official one that Matt Reeves put out of like the red lights and the really sick Gicano. I don't know how to say it. Michael Giacano, Giacchino. I don't know how you say his fucking name. The
Okay.
composer with his really awesome score in the background of it. That
Oh,
was dope. I'm talking about the one on the motorcycle, and I admit that it's not. You know, it's a grainy cell phone photo. That's not going to be what it looks like when it's finished. I'm just really tired of like the SWAT team Batman look.
oh, okay. I don't know if I've seen that leaked photo. You said it was kind of like leaked. It wasn't an official photo.
Yeah, it's not an official press release. It looks like somebody just saw them filming and snapped a photo,
Oh, okay.
and then like a quick cell phone video of it.
Yeah,
Um,
I've only seen like the I guess the test shot that they did. Whatever you said.
in the red light, yeah,
Right, yeah, that was pretty dope. Even though it wasn't, it was perfect as a teaser. Like
agreed.
it wasn't like a full length shot of Pattinson in the suit. It was just certain parts of it, and I did like what I saw. And then of course I guess it was earlier this week we got the Batmobile.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the Batmobile looks fucking dope.
yeah, yeah, it looks fucking sick. I'm super
Looks
excited for
like
that.
it looks like a full on '70s muscle car that's been souped up, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
That's
I'm all for that.
very yeah, very
Um,
exciting.
yeah, the cast for this is great.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson. That's an interesting choice, but I think it makes sense if they're going to go in the direction that they say they're going, where it's a younger Batman
Right,
and it's more of the detective side rather than like the beefed up, bulky, badass kung fu crime fighter Batman.
right.
So I'm interested in that. Zoe Kravitz, she's always welcome as Catwoman. That's cool. Colin
Mhm.
Farrell, who I am an apologist for as Penguin. I don't really know how that's going to work, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, it hasn't Penguin, like, historically always been, super short?
Yeah, so Penguin's character is like, I believe, and I don't know if this is like comic canon or just Burton film canon, but I think he has like some sort of made up disability
Mhm.
um, that makes him look like that. So he's
Okay,
always been kind of like short and ugly and deformed. So I'm
sure.
interested to see how that is going to work in this.
Yeah.
We'll see. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. I fucking love the character of Carmine Falcone. I fucking love John Turturro. So this is going to be
I
interesting.
think yeah, I think that's perfect. Like, at first when I read that, I was like, that's kinda interesting. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but then I thought back to, The Long Halloween and how he was physically portrayed, and I was like, "Well, shit, like, John Turturro would be fucking perfect for that."
Yeah. Jeffrey Wright as James Gordon. I don't
Mhm.
know if he's going to be Commissioner Gordon or just like Detective Gordon.
Sure.
I haven't heard, but either way, cool with that. Andy Serkis is Alfred. That was
Yep.
really interesting to me, but it kind of makes sense,
Mhm.
because I think for a lot of people they picture Alfred as like an older man,
Yeah.
but he definitely is older than Bruce Wayne slash Batman, but he's not like a senior citizen like he's portrayed in a lot of the films or like the animated
Right.
series, or at least if the timeline that they're going with on this, where it's a younger Batman, it would make sense as a younger Alfred. And then Paul Dano is the Riddler, which that's I don't want to say the worst casting because I don't think it's a bad casting. It's just it's kind of weird to me. I wouldn't picture him as the Riddler, although he is a very good actor. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have equated eh, the Riddler to someone being very relatively tall and lanky. Just going off of what I've seen in movies and seen in different iterations of the Riddler in comic books. So I could definitely see Paul Dano as the Riddler. I'm interested to see how it works out. So I'm definitely not writing it off at this moment. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the speculations about this movie slash rumors. It's supposed to be heavily based on the Long Halloween, and if the casting is anything that or is anything to go off of, that's probably pretty accurate.
Hmm.
I will say that the score they teased out when they did the test footage of the costume, I got a lot of heavy, heavy, heavy Taxi Driver vibes. It sounds a lot like the Taxi Driver score, which makes sense because Matt Reeves said that he listened to that basically on repeat while writing the script. Um,
Okay.
Taxi Driver is a fantastic movie, and I will not hear anything to the contrary. This
You will
movie will
not get
probably
anything to the contrary on my side.
this movie will probably not come close to being as good as it is, but as long as it comes halfway there, it was probably going to be pretty solid. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, a couple of the rumors that I heard are that this movie takes place in like the late 1990s.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what anybody is basing that off of because I don't think that anyone involved in the film has said that.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Maybe I just didn't see it because I'm not online enough or whatever. But
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like aside from this stuff that is like actually set in stone, mainly the casting, and of course the photos we got online, like everything else is pure speculation. Like there's
yeah,
really not much we know about this movie, which honestly I'm cool with because I hate finding out so many details about a movie before it comes out because you're sitting there and you're like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that and hearing about that and I've seen that, and it feels like you've already fucking seen the movie at that point. And it's just not fun anymore. So
yeah. So, well, you say that after I bring that up, of course. But if it does take place in the late '90s, it pains me to say this, but it looks like that it might be a direct or semi-direct continuation of the Joker film we got last year, which
yeah,
gross, but it was apparently very popular. So I'm in the minority of that opinion.
yeah, you've definitely swayed pretty hard from your original viewpoint. Which I mean, I know that you weren't extremely high on Joker to begin with, but it seems like every time we talk about it, you've come down harder and harder on the other end of not liking it. So I mean, which to each his own, of course, as per usual. But I mean, if that's the case, then if this is part of the Joker universe, whatever.
We'll see. Again, that's just like rumors and speculation. So
Yeah,
from everything that I've heard and from everything that's been released, quote unquote, officially, I think the Joker was supposed to be like a standalone sub side
right,
universe piece, whatever. I don't know. But then again, it also made over $1 billion fucking dollars and is like the most profitable R-rated movie of all time. So maybe
right.
they're gonna take the ball and run with it. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a beast. What award did it end up winning? Did it just get Joaquin Phoenix's best actor?
Uh, yeah, it got nominated for fucking everything, I think. But
Yeah, yeah, I got a lot of nominations.
I think the only thing it won for was Joaquin's performance as best best actor, which, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is a makeup Oscar. But that's just my opinion.
Makeup Oscar. What do you mean by that?
Meaning that he should have won the Oscar at least one time previously for a different movie that he was
Oh,
much better
okay.
in.
Yeah,
And then the Academy realized their mistake and made up for it with this one.
yeah. That makes sense. Are you talking about I was never there, or I'm never really
No,
here? Whatever.
well, that was a really good one. I was thinking of The Master.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've seen that one either.
It's on
But
Netflix and it's fantastic.
okay. I was picturing the movie. I think it's him, and he looks also a hot mess in this, but actually has meat on his bones. I think he's like has an axe in his hand or something like that, and he
The
looks.
Hammer.
Oh, is it a hammer? All right.
Yeah,
Well, I'm doing
you were
great.
never really here,
Yeah, that's it.
I think.
That sounds right. Cool. Well, yeah, that's something.
Yeah, that's a good movie too.
Okay.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's right. I think I added it to my list
Yeah,
and just promptly forgot that I added it to my list.
great movie.
Dope. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Anyway, that's our woefully incomplete look at Batman. I think.
And we managed to pull it off all within the span of like an hour and a half, which
Yeah,
is
not bad,
amazing.
not bad, and without
For
me losing my voice, which that's a personal victory.
actually, it kind of sounds like your voice has gotten better over the span of this podcast. Like it started out a little rough, and maybe it's because you've warmed up a little bit. Um,
Maybe it could be because I coughed up like blood and snot like 20 minutes ago, and probably should go
well,
to the emergency room. But here we are. Podcasting comes first, apparently.
yes, I will be visibly upset with you if you end this podcast to go take care of your physical health.
Fucking
Uh,
sissy.
you wuss, get back in front of your friggin' microphone and talk
Right.
about Batman with me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, again, this is painfully incomplete. There's 80 some odd years of Batman to go through. We definitely could not have covered all of it. It would take, I mean, shit. People have written like literal PhD theses about Batman. So,
Yeah.
um, but there is something for everybody. There's a Batman iteration for everybody. If you like the campy stuff, there's something for you. If you like the more serious, heavy shit, there's stuff for you. If
Yeah.
you just want to see Batman beat the shit out of some fucking punks, there's something for you.
Yeah,
Something for
yeah, yeah. I think in my experience, and Ted might echo this, is if you're unsure about like where to start, or like you have a clear, semi-clear idea of what kind of Batman iteration you might be into, and you're wanting to jump into the comics, like either just get on YouTube, because there's plenty of like comic book YouTubers that will like break down certain volumes and iterations of characters without doing spoilers. That's a good avenue. And like Ted said earlier, go to your local comic book shop and ask them, because they are like the gatekeepers of all comic book knowledge ever. Um,
yeah,
and they will be able to, if you just give them like the smallest, uh, you know, uh, piece of information as far as like what direction you want to head into, then they will be able to find something for you.
for
Um,
sure.
and if they don't have it on their shelves, then they can order it for you. And also, yeah, just in general, support your local comic book shops, because they also have to put food on the table for themselves and their family. So
Yep.
yeah,
Do you want to do shit that doesn't suck?
sure, yeah, we can do that.
All right. What do you got?
Let's see, what there was a movie I watched last night, and I was like, oh yeah, the fucking Shawshank Redemption. I remember I started watching because like, Ted hates this movie.
I
So,
fucking hate that movie almost as much as I hate Joss Whedon.
yeah, I mean, we won't get into all that, but yeah, I don't I like it. It's a fun movie for me. Maybe because of me and my dumb brain. I know my words, but um, yeah, I guess that's. I feel like I'm kind of talking to the wall here with like, yeah, that's my shit that doesn't suck. Where Ted is, on the other line, like fucking idiot. Uh,
Not exactly, but also not entirely incorrect either.
right. I mean, I like the back and forth chemistry of Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman's characters in that movie.
Yes, if only the rest of the movie was nearly as good as their chemistry.
I yeah, it's one of these days I'm going to read the novella to see how it stacks up against the movie. So, but yeah, that's my shit that doesn't suck.
Right on. Um, Sorry, I just drew a blank. I totally had something in. Okay, all right. Sorry, I remember what it was now. Sorry.
You got sidetracked with like in your head making fun of me for my poor like.
My searing hatred of the fucking Shawshank Redemption just completely overtook it. Excuse me. So, my shit that doesn't suck. I saw this in theaters a couple of weeks ago, and I was pleasantly surprised at it. It's Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman.
Mhm.
I like a lot of Guy Ritchie's stuff, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Rolla. A lot of those like chav British gangster movies I like a lot. This was a return to that, starring Matthew McConaughey, Colin Farrell, and a lot of other people. There's a sheet load of fucking people in this movie.
Yeah, I
Um,
noticed that.
it is it doesn't live up to like the Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch level, but it's a worthy entry into his filmography. I was
All
very
right,
pleasantly surprised by it. So if you're into either of those movies that I mentioned, any of the movies of his that I mentioned, check it out. It's still in theaters, I think, or it'll be on video, before too long. Fun movie, fun movie.
right on. Cool. Yeah, I'll. I definitely. I remember seeing the trailer for that, and I was like, oh man, I want to go watch that. But of course, have to be pretty picky and choosy with the movies that I go see. So I'll be excited to check it out whenever it comes out on home video. So,
Yes.
but if Ted, you got anything else? Any closing thoughts or anything?
No, nothing that is
Just
positive.
just go read Batman.
Yeah, just read a lot of Batman books because they're good. Read more comic books in general.
Yes, read more comic books because comics make life better.
Nope.
And
No.
what?
Do the
Uh,
movies thing. but with comic books.
Right, yes. Do the movies thing, but with comic books, and be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. We'll see you later. Bye!